The ocean was calm that evening, just gentle waves brushing against the hull of a small yacht named Lynn Rival as it drifted quietly off the coast of the Seychelles. For Paul and Rachel Chandler, it was supposed to be the journey of a lifetime, a sailing trip across the Indian Ocean. But far beyond the reach of comfort or safety, something else was waiting, and it had been watching them for days. Without warning, a second boat appeared, silent, fast, and approaching at an unnatural angle. Within seconds, armed men were on board. They moved quickly, methodically, as if they had done this before. Paul and Rachel barely had time to speak. The yacht was turned around and taken deep into open water. There was no trace left behind, no evidence. For days, they were kept hidden inside their own boat while it was used to transport them away from everything familiar. Eventually, they were transferred onto a small skiff and taken ashore, to Somalia, a place they had only ever known from news headlines, a place where people vanished, and sometimes never returned. They were taken inland to a remote village, not a prison, not a cell, but the earth itself, dry, silent, and lawless, became their cage. Surrounded by men with weapons, language they couldn't understand, and days that melted into each other. Paul and Rachel were forced to sleep outside, sometimes under a tree, sometimes in a makeshift hut. They were fed just enough to stay alive, not out of kindness, but because dead hostages had no value.
I don't know what else I can say. Just please, please help us. Please.
Their captors began making demands. $7 million. Negotiations began, but the UK government had a strict policy. They wouldn't pay. Back in England, their family was helpless. Journalists started covering the story, and video footage of the couple surfaced. Have a look.
This is our 27th day in captivity. So far, we have been provided with adequate food and water and facilities, and so we are unharmed and in reasonable physical health. Mentally, we are under great stress and threatened. Our kidnappers are losing patience. They are concerned that there has been no response at all to their demands for money. We ask the government and the people of Britain and our families to do whatever you can to at least open negotiations with these people about money so that perhaps our lives can be brought back. We have been threatened that there is a terrorist gang at large in the country looking for us. We are also concerned that these people will lose patience and will not feed us, and I have no doubt that they will not hesitate to kill us, perhaps within a week or so of now, if there is no response. So please, somebody get in touch, otherwise we just sleepwalk to a tragic ending.
And we are told that we will not be fed and given water, so we are very concerned about the future. Our captors are very impatient now that nobody has been in touch to enter into negotiations. So we ask the government and the people of Britain and our family to do whatever they can to enter into negotiations with these people to buy back our lives. As Paul has said, we are told that there is a terrorist cell or a fanatic cell searching for us, and we are also feeling very much under threat now that these people themselves won't hesitate to take our lives.
Rachel trembling as she begged for help. Paul standing beside her, holding back rage, confusion, and fear. Their voices were broadcast around the world, but in Somalia, no one came. As months passed, their physical condition worsened. Rachel lost so much weight she barely recognized herself. Paul started hearing things at night, distant cries in the dark, other hostages perhaps, or maybe just echoes of the mind. Sometimes the wind carried strange sounds, almost like whispers, but there was no one there. Their world had shrunk to dust, flies, and fear. The pirates would sometimes threaten them, sometimes ignore them completely. There were moments when Paul believed they were going to be executed, not for any reason, just because someone was bored or drunk.
I have spoken to everybody, and I don't know what else I can say.
And then, over a year after they were first taken, something changed. A deal was struck, not by governments, but by people who worked behind the scenes. The ransom was lowered, negotiations were quiet, and eventually, cash exchanged hands. $440,000 in 2 separate payments, not millions, but enough. One morning, they were taken by truck into the hills. They had no idea if it was to be executed or freed, and just like that, they were released. Handed off to a Somali official who greeted them with a forced smile and an armed escort. They were thin, sunburnt, and emotionally wrecked, but they were alive. After 388 days in captivity, Paul and Rachel Chandler were free. But the scars, both visible and buried deep, would remain. Even today, they rarely talk about what really happened in that forgotten village. The looks in the eyes of their captors, the smell of blood and sand, the slow unraveling of time, the fact that they had been erased from the world for over a year. To this day, dozens of foreign hostages remain missing across Somalia. Some were never seen again. Others may still be alive, waiting, watching the horizon, hoping that someone, somewhere, still remembers their name. It's heavy. This may still be someone's reality, but at least they're alive. I can't say the same for the boys in the next video. What was supposed to be just another night, a joyride through the countryside, turned into the kind of reckless escape that feels invincible, until it's not. 20-year-old KL Ford and his friend, 21-year-old Michael Owen, were staying in Crowborough, far from their hometown of Royal Tunbridge Wells. That night, they got behind the wheel, laughing, filming, and pushing speeds of up to 90 miles per hour through the winding roads of the Sussex countryside. What began as harmless fun quickly turned into the last moments of their lives, and it was all captured on camera. The boys had taken a dangerous mix of illegal and prescription drugs, a detail that would only be revealed later in court. The footage they filmed on Michael's phone captured everything: the roaring engine, the shouts of excitement, and the final seconds before the crash. You can almost sense the moment everything tips, when adrenaline turns into panic and laughter into silence. The next morning, their bodies were found in the wreckage, the car twisted around a tree. Michael's phone lay nearby, almost untouched, still holding the recording of their final moments. Both families later made the heartbreaking decision to release that footage, hoping it would serve as a warning to others. A reminder of how quickly life can end when recklessness meets speed, and no one is there to stop it. The sound of their voices, the rush of wind through the open windows, the final sudden silence. It's all real, and it's all they left behind. No second chances, no final goodbye, just a recording and the silence that followed. But there are more recordings like this. Shocking moments captured on video, just like the one you're about to see next. The Iguazu Falls, one of Earth's most awe-inspiring natural wonders. With 275 separate cascades roaring through the rainforest between Brazil and Argentina, it draws millions every year. Tourists come for the beauty, for the photos, for the once-in-a-lifetime feeling of standing on the edge of something so powerful. But that power, it has a darker side. In 2022, the falls saw one of the worst flood seasons in recent history. During heavy rains, the flow of water can swell up to 16 times the normal rate, turning peaceful walkways and viewing platforms into death traps. Still, the park remained open to the public. Crowds walked the bridges, leaned over railings, took selfies. Most got away with it. One man didn't. His name was Sean Sirac, a 58-year-old Canadian from Montreal. That day, he wanted the perfect shot. He climbed over the railing at Salto Bassetti Bridge, holding his camera high, framing the massive waterfall behind him. Witnesses say he lost his balance and fell backwards. The force of the water was overwhelming. People nearby saw him surface just once, gasping, arms reaching, then nothing. Despite rescue efforts, he was never seen again. Not until days later, when his body was found downstream, on the Brazilian side of the river. But that wasn't the only tragedy. Just a few kilometers away, something even more terrifying happened. Tourists were still boarding boats for sightseeing tours, even though water levels were high and currents were unpredictable. Dozens of visitors climbed aboard, smiling, filming, capturing the jungle and the thunder of falling water. And then, without warning, the cliff above them fractured. A massive slab of rock broke off and came crashing down onto two boats below, and it was all captured on camera. Watch. There was no time to react, no warning, just impact. The rock smashed through one vessel and capsized another. Screams were swallowed by the noise of crashing stone and rushing water. 6 people were killed instantly. Over 30 more were injured. Some were thrown into the water, some crushed beneath debris. Emergency crews rushed in, but by then, the damage was done. As many as 20 were reported missing in the aftermath. No one could have predicted it. It happened in a quiet corner of the lake, far from where danger usually lurks. But that's the terrifying truth about nature. It doesn't always give you a warning. One moment it's calm, beautiful, almost sacred. Next, it's a grave. These two events occurring so close in time and place are a brutal reminder of just how quickly wonder can turn into horror, and how in places like Iguazu, beauty and danger are never far apart. And the same holds true for what you're about to see next. 2018 began like any other day in Guatemala. The skies were clear, the air calm, and the villages near Volcán de Fuego, the volcano of fire, were quiet. Life moved on as usual, with no sign of what was coming. For those unfamiliar, Fuego isn't just another mountain. Towering over 3,700 meters high and nestled between Chimaltenango, Escuintla, and Zacatepeques, it's one of Central America's most active volcanoes. Locals were used to its routine outbursts, small explosions every 15 to 20 minutes like background noise. Familiar, almost comforting, until the comfort turned to horror.
Ala, miren, ala, sí, bajó bastante. Híjole. Pero aquí no llega.
Just before noon, the volcano exploded with unimaginable force. In seconds, calm skies became chaos. Smoke, ash, and superheated gas launched into the air with a deafening roar. Lava and burning rock poured down its slopes in pyroclastic waves, clouds of death racing at hundreds of kilometers per hour, searing at 700 degrees Celsius. Towns that had stood for generations were wiped off the map in moments. One man, unaware of the coming devastation, captured the eruption on his phone. In the background, laughter, disbelief, someone muttering, "It won't reach us." Seconds later, everyone in that video was gone. Some ran. Some tried to escape by car, by motorcycle, by foot. But they never had a chance. Entire communities were swallowed in silence. Authorities first reported 33 deaths. But the truth was far worse. Nearly 200 confirmed dead, nearly 2,900 believed to have perished, and over 250 still missing weeks later. 21,000 acres of crops were destroyed. Roads and bridges turned to ash. Even the country's main airport shut down as a blanket of death fell across the region.
Aquí no llegan, ojalá el otro puente. ¡Ja, tú! ¡Tú! ¡Ya los que agarró!
But this wasn't just a story about fire and rock. It was also about silence, about warnings not heard in time. Guatemala's National Science Agency issued 6 alerts starting early that morning, but many people in the danger zone had no cell service, no internet, no radios. Some never received the warnings, others ignored them. By the time evacuation orders came, the roads had already vanished beneath waves of ash.
Son 50 los que yo tengo desaparecidos. Aquí está toda la colonia, todas las familias enteras, todas están bajo tierra.
¿Usted estaba aquí cuando pasó?
Sí, yo estaba en el callejón, yo les alerté a varias personas y a ellos, pero ellos no quisieron irse. Mi hija lo que hizo con el niño, meterse en la casa de mi mamá y mire, aquí no hay nada. Toda mi familia está aquí sepultada.
¿Usted cree que el gobierno, el CONRED, hizo lo suficiente para prevenir a la gente? Porque
no. CONRED no nos dio alerta, él no nos avisó nada, él no dijo nada. ¿Qué es lo que está haciendo el gobierno? Limpiando la carretera.
Later, people asked why the government didn't act sooner, why there weren't sirens, why helicopters didn't come. But in truth, the system was never designed for something like this. A catastrophe moving faster than anyone thought possible. A storm of nature and human error colliding in real time. And maybe the saddest part is that not everyone had to die. Some might have lived, if they'd gotten the message, if they'd believed it, if they'd run sooner. But Volcán de Fuego didn't wait for warnings. It didn't care about planning or science. It simply erupted. And by the time people realized the truth, the mountain had already gone quiet again, leaving nothing behind but ash, grief, and the silence of everything it took. And it's not the only case where things could have been avoided, because in this next clip, the incident could have been prevented too. On the evening of May 17, 2025, Mexico's majestic training ship, the Arm Cuauhtémoc, prepared for departure from Pier 17 in New York's South Street seaport. Its 3 towering masts stark against twilight. Cadets lined the spars to perform a traditional manning the yards salute, unaware of the calamity about to unfold. At approximately 8:24 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, something went terribly wrong. The ship began reversing, its propulsion malfunctioning. Captains and cadets watched in stunned silence as the topgallant masts, soaring nearly 147 feet high, far above the 127 feet clearance, crashed violently into the underside of the Brooklyn Bridge, and it was all captured on camera. Watch.
You kidding? Oh my God.
It was a disaster. Some fell meters down, others remained dangling in sheer terror. Emergency alarms erupted. 2 young sailors, America Yamilet Sanchez and Adal Jair Marcos, were killed, and at least 19 others suffered injuries. 2 were reported in critical condition. NYPD harbor units and FDNY boats rushed forward within minutes. The panicked vessel drifted, weak and wounded, until tug crews regained control. The Brooklyn Bridge itself, miraculously, escaped structural harm, though traffic was halted for hours as investigators assessed the damage. End on a stark reflection. 2 lives claimed, dozens injured, and a vessel once meant for glory now a scar across New York's skyline. New York isn't the only city with dark secrets buried beneath its surface. London has its own horrors. Watch closely.
Some 14 miles from the crash.
It was a routine live broadcast, just another news report from the side of the M11 motorway, where a car accident had recently taken place. The reporter spoke calmly, delivering the facts as traffic hummed in the background. But viewers of London Tonight noticed something else, something that didn't belong. Just over the reporter's shoulder, a strange, shadowy figure glided across the screen, slow, smooth, and unexplainable. It didn't match the light. It didn't cast a reflection. And for a few seconds, it looked almost human. The footage quickly spread across forums and social media. Was it a ghost? A spirit drawn to the place where life had just ended? Some even described it as ectoplasm, a vapor-like energy trying to cross the road. The speculation became so intense that producers of the program were forced to investigate. They analyzed the footage frame by frame. And after a detailed review, their conclusion was simple, maybe even disappointing. It was an arthropod, a bug crawling across the lens. That was the official story, but not everyone bought it. The shape, the motion, it didn't quite fit, and skeptics pointed out that insects don't usually move like that. In the end, the explanation raised more questions than it answered, because sometimes, even in broad daylight, on a highway just outside of London, things pass through the frame that don't belong to this world, and not everything caught on camera can be explained away. So what do you think it was? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. That's all for today, folks. For more creepy content, click on the video on screen.